Hey, welcome to Ca C'est Cajun. I'm Jake, and I'll be cooking for y'all today. We're gonna do a jambalaya, a chicken, sausage, and pork jambalaya. Just a simple brown jambalaya, Cajun style. We're gonna start off with bacon. I'll go over that. We got all the vegetables you would need right here. Onions, bell pepper, celery, some parsley, some convenient garlic, pre-cut. All the seasonings you could think to use. Some people like Tony's, some people like Slap Your Mama. We got that. This is Happy Cajun. This is a local favorite here, made in Chauvin, Louisiana. Pretty cool, less salt. We're gonna use all of that just to show that you can, and it don't matter what you use. Pretty simple. We're just gonna get everything prepared and then get the process started. You don't really, well, I don't measure much of anything. I just would say keep track of how much liquid you put in your jambalaya because you're gonna be incorporating rice while it cooks. So you wanna make sure that ratio is right to get the right consistency. I like mine kind of dry. Not too dry, but also not too moist. So keep track of that. We're going to use chicken stock to do that, but we're going to start everything off with bacon. So usually the first thing I do is just cut up some bacon, throw it in the pot, get that bacon fat rendered out, so that way we have some some oil to saute our vegetables in and get those nice and caramelized. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bacon cut up, and we're going to get started. We'll also have a snack while we eat, which is also a bonus. Open it delicately, and just pour it out, get it in there. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to cook down so much that you probably won't even know it's in there except for the flavor just being delicious. So I don't, divide it out or do anything crazy like that. You get a really sharp knife and you just cut it to where it's in little bitty bite-sized type pieces. Because like I said, I usually like to eat some of it. And if anybody walks by and they get nosy, I can give it to them and they can have something and they can go off and do whatever they want, eat a little bit of bacon, and then I got some for me, and then whatever's left over that doesn't get eaten just goes in the pot, and it becomes part of the jambalaya. And who doesn't love bacon? So get you a pot that has a good thick bottom. Hear that? So you get a good thick bottom on the pot right there, and it really distributes the heat really well and holds heat really well. Today I'm using 360 Cookware brand pots. They're great. I use them quite a bit. Hear that? But if you can see from up here, it immediately starts frying up. And that's what we want. Just start rendering that down. And it's great because you do this first. It's awesome because you can smell bacon while you're preparing everything else, which is great. And then you can eat bacon once it's cooked. Pork, I like adding pork. This is just boneless pork chops. So kind of cube these up. I'll start with 2, kind of see how it looks. Compare it to the pot in that dish right there, and I'll decide if I want more or less of anything. Also want to just keep in mind that we've got bacon going over here. You don't want to burn that. I'll probably actually turn this down a little bit because these pots they hold a lot of heat. And I'm using my knife. It's just in my hand. Usually right about now, we got a couple of beers, got some blues music playing. We're having a large time, but for copyright reasons, we're doing this just to the sound of bacon sizzling, so that's all right too though. Some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I like chicken thighs because I feel like there's some good flavor in it. You could do that with chicken breast too. It's fine, tastes great. Not a bad idea maybe to even marinate chicken breast a little bit just to kind of get more flavor. I cut off some of the fat, not all of it, because it cooks for a long time, but I'll just try to get it into some sort of bite-sized chunks. I want this to shred apart. That's kind of how I make mine. Whenever I stir this at the very end, I like the chicken thighs to just kind of fall apart so there's like a little bit of chicken in every bite. Everybody does stuff a little bit differently. It all is just about the same, but at the end of the day, everybody's got their own recipes. Their family passed down certain things. They pick up things from other places. And so it's really just, as long as your food is good and people keep eating it, then you're doing something right. So you're just learning one of many ways. You can see I got this dish out right here, and I'm kind of using that to measure my ingredients to see, how much I got and what I should, how much I should add. And I'm looking at this pot. It's a pretty big pot too, and ow, there's some bacon grease in my face. We're looking good in here, and this is great to put vegetables in. Man, I tell you what, you get some vegetables rendered down in this bacon fat, you can eat just vegetables. Obviously, you can get fresh sausage, and that's probably really good. You could do that. This is, store-bought, but it's great. I usually just cut mine little half moons or whatever. Just make it a little easier for people to put on a fork and also get some rice without having to take a gigantic bite. See? I don't know if you can see it from this angle here. I'll move some of this bacon out of the way. This is pretty much not avoidable. If you look, say you got this fond or gras doux or whatever you want to call it, just a browning at the bottom of the pot. It's just a little bit of a caramel color brown, just from the bacon being on there. It's rendered out real good, but what's really great, if you get that on the bottom of your pot, don't freak out and feel like you got to scrape it all up or that you burned it, as long as there's some bacon. See, the gift that keeps on giving. Don't feel like you got to scrape all that off, because one thing that gets all that at the bottom of the pot off is vegetables. They're good for you, and they're good for the crap on the bottom of your pot. Get all that off, and all that flavor ends up in your food, and it's delicious. So just leave that on there. Just make sure it don't burn. You don't want to serve people charcoal or carbon or whatever. Just make sure you do that right and put them vegetables in there. It'll absorb all that. It'll be tasting real good. We got our meat cut. Salt, seasoning, pepper, whatever you want on there. I usually we'll do a little slappy mama on the meat. How about that? I put some slappy mama on the pork. It's all going to mix together anyway. All right. Then we're going to do some Tony Chachere's on the chicken. All right. And then we'll put a little Happy Cajun, since, we'll put that on everything, because it don't really matter. Do what you want. All right. Let's see. We're probably going to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce too. Now look, if it looks like I'm kind of thinking about what I'm doing before I'm doing it, it's because, one, I'm not going by a recipe. Two, every time I make this, it's always a little bitty bit different, because I remember most of what I cook, but I always cook so much that I don't cook all the time. I usually just cook for people whenever, I got family over, I'm visiting family, I'll cook. And so I kind of just go by memory and go by feel. And I hate to say that you kind of need to be around Cajun people to get that. And if you can't be around Cajun people, just watch this video over and over and over again. And I'll be your Cajun co-pilot, right? So probably should have shook that up. That's good enough. A little bit of crystal. Some people like Louisiana. Some people like Tabasco. I don't think it matters. This is going to get mixed in with everything, and it's going to simmer for a long, long time. So we're just going to kind of move all that out the way, all elegantly. And we're going to come over here. And we're just going to let this pork get in there. And the good thing is, see, this is something else. Okay, start with your pork. If you're going to brown any of your meat, start with the pork, because you're going to use pork fat like you did with the bacon. Hey, a piece of sausage got in there. That's great. When all this cooks, I'm going to eat that piece of sausage. It's awesome. A little bit of seasoning on there. That's just to kind of give it a little bit of crust. Every now and then, it don't hurt to get some water on your hand. Rinse some of that off. Now, that's too low now. So we're going to go up to medium-high heat. Like I said, these pots hold heat really well. So this has been on low for a little while. And it's still holding a lot of heat. It's doing pretty well. So we got our pork in here. We're going to brown that, render that down some. Look, you could already start to see it, like in this spot right here, starting to brown some. We're just going to let that sit. It's going to brown in this bacon grease. And we're going to be doing good. We're going to move on to our next thing. So we're going to probably do our chicken next. And we want to make room for our vegetables. So as soon as this gets done browning, we're going to put it back in there. And then we're going to move our chicken into here, brown the chicken, and then put that back in there. And we're going to free up our pot once again for our vegetables. So we're going to start cutting the vegetables now, just because we got time. Well, look, check this out. Since I don't have my ingredients cut, I can show you how I cut an onion if you want to see it, how I do it my way. Cut it in half. Peel off the outside, right? Then you take your cleaver, because that's the best knife. We're just going to make little slivers like this. All the way down it. Right? And then look at that. That's the perfect size. See? Little slivers. They're going to melt down. They're going to caramelize and turn into nothing. So if you cut them a little smaller, it happens a little faster. I got some family members that are picky about vegetables. They don't like them, so you can make those vegetables disappear. You can make some people happy. You know what? I'm going to stop using my knife like a barbarian. Oh, look at that sausage. See? Browning nicely. Usually I don't brown my sausage. But that's going to be mine, and we ain't going to tell nobody. All right, so look how we're doing. We got this browning nicely. Now remember, look, at the bottom of the pot, we're going to have these little spots that are starting to brown up a little bit more. If it starts getting too bad, just turn down that fire and know that eventually you're going to put some vegetables on there and it's going to all clean up. But look how good this is browning right here. Look, see if I can get this. That looks awesome. And a lot of times you can just get that by not stirring it a whole lot, just letting it sit. And look, we still got some bacon in here that I was too lazy to take all the way out. And that's delicious because it's cooking even more and it gets crispy. Now, remember what I told y'all. That's for me, but I'm going to let it cool off a little bit. And I got this on low now. I'm going to just let it sit for a minute. And now we're going to start cutting the bell pepper. So, trusty cleaver, and this is usually how I do it. Everybody does it differently, but and I'm just cutting around those ribs in there. Because I feel like it don't taste that good. And also cutting around them seeds at the same time. So it don't really matter, exactly too much how much you cut these. They don't have to be perfect. I used to spend a lot of time trying to make sure all my cuts were perfect, and then I just got to the point where I'd rather just pass the knife over everything, even like this, and just make sure visually that it's close. It don't have to be perfect. And just keep an eye on everything else. Make sure you're not burning anything. And look, I got another half of an onion right here too, just in case I want more onion in there. And always keep an eye on your food over here. Make sure it's looking good, by the way. That's delicious. Man, that's good. That's doing great. Come over here and just cut these up. Like I said, just try to get them about the same size. I don't cut very properly, so if you're better than me at home and you're cutting all this, that's great. I think celery is really good. Tastes good, and it's good to put in food. So I'll just do this. Don't throw these out, though. Keep those. That's just a little more uniform and easier to cut. So the thing about celery, though, it is kind of like a robust, sturdy vegetable, at least from what I could tell. I see celery floating in my food because it just is not, it's not willing to take a beating like the bell pepper and onions are. So kind of cut this a little maybe slimmer. That's pretty good. And we'll save that. And that should be enough. Now, I told you to save the tops of those because we're going to wind up cutting that up too, just like we would do with our parsley. And just throw that in there too because the leaves taste good too. I mean, hey, why not use as much as you can? You can pay like $1 for this. I ain't letting this go to waste. All right, and so we got some of this. Look, we're just going to keep an eye on our... This is about ready. So look, I got to cut a little bit more of the celery and some parsley and stuff, but this is a good time to stop and deal with this. So, look. This might freak some people out. Get over it. I ain't cooking Nutra. It could be worse. All right, so just take this. Like I said, look, I separated with the sausage because the sausage is fully cooked and everything's going in the pot anyway. But if you're worried about raw, touching, whatever, I'm not eating this. I'm not taste testing it. I'm just using it as storage, and I don't feel like doing a lot of dishes. Do what you got to do. Might do it differently at your house, and that's great. All right, now, the grease is still hot. We're going to turn our fire up a little bit because it was on low while I was cutting those vegetables. We're going to put that on about medium-high. Just get it back where it needs to be. Brown this chicken, because who doesn't love that? And like I said, don't matter shrimp platter. It's all going in the same thing. All right, so it looks like we just got sausage left, which is great. We'll put all that together. So we'll mix this up a little bit. I got a couple pieces of sausage that fell in there. Didn't really do that on purpose, but I didn't really not do it on purpose either. Feel like it needs a little salt. Maybe some more Tonys. I just go for the green can because I'm so used to it. But this one's green too, so there's no excuse. And like I said, use whatever you want. We done use Tony's, the Happy Cajun, that Peanut does, Walker and Sons. Now this stuff is hot. This is Slap Your Mama hot. That is some crazy heat. So, you know, do what you want. Now, hey, look at this too. For all you people up north, we got Mrs. Dash, salt free. You can add that too. It's great. Mrs. Dash got all kinds of stuff in there. Use what you want. And we like every different kind of hot sauce you can get. So we put some of that in there too. We want the chicken to have some good flavor, right? This is not chicken hand. Bacon. Keeps the chef happy. We got that going on. Got the chicken cooking now. This pork is relatively cooked. And we'll come back and do that after I wash my hands. We're just going to stir this pot. Now, look, I would say you don't want to cook this chicken all the way because you can let it finish in the pot. But if you notice, every here and there you'll see these pieces of sausage that fell in. You could leave those in or take them out and just wait and cook everything together so it's evenly cooked. But I want to eat that, so I'm going to cook my chicken a little bit more. And for whatever reason, a lot of this fond has come up off the pot, which is great too. Maybe it's the moisture from the chicken, right? So that's also positive. We're doing good today. But all of this down here that you see, this liquid gold looking stuff right here, that's bacon grease, pork grease, chicken grease. Stuff's the best. And that's what's going to make this jambalaya great, right? Start with bacon. Bacon. It's great. All right. So I got a couple green onions. This is not very many green onions, but I honestly, there's a flower pot outside full of green onions, and I took some of them. They smell good. This is great for garnish. I'm going to feel fancier than you are. I'm going to add some of that. But we do want to cut these up. These celery bits here. There are some stalks in here as well. That's fine. Just chop the hell out of it. Mainly want the leaves. We will chop some of this up too. This might be a lot, but we're going to just see how much we wind up using. That chicken is cooking well. All right. Let's check on our chicken. Holy moly. Should have turned that down. Luckily, nothing burned. We got our vegetables ready because we were smart. But that chicken cooked down really good, which means the sausage is probably safe to eat. I'm no doctor. All right, so this is looking done enough. So turn the magical pot of meat around. We're just going to put our chicken back in. Now this is cooked down a lot. Another good thing to going back to the same dish you used earlier that you put your raw stuff in is you can see when things cook down how much more room you might have. But I promised myself for the show today I would not overcook and have my pot overflow with rice, so we're going to try to be a little more modest. Be a little bit lesser on the leftovers, but that's okay. All right. Just get all that chicken out of there. And now, make sure I'm low fire because you don't want that to burn. See all of this down here? All of this grease or whatever. This is just going to make your vegetables real happy. This is great. It's got the seasoning we put on the chicken and on the pork. You know, you're still going to need to add more seasoning. But if you kind of season as you go, I feel like it incorporates into everything a little bit better. And this sausage is on this side, so I know it's cooked. I will be eating that piece most likely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this fire turned back up. Take our onions. Take our bell pepper. That's good enough. And our celery. Right? Now, see, obviously I like vegetables. They're great. But they take up a lot of room in the pot because they're not cooked down. So we need to cook all this down so we have more room for meat and rice. Who are we kidding? That's what we like. So this is a little in a way. These vegetables literally killed the heat, which is why it's so good for calming down a roux when it gets out of hand. But look, see what these vegetables are doing? Because of the water content of these vegetables, they really help knock away some of that fond, even on the sides. You can kind of tell. It's all on the side right there. Watch. Pass some vegetables over that. Goes away. Goes away. And it don't just disappear. It gets into the vegetables. See? And now we're going to let this simmer. I guess some people would say maybe even smother it a little bit, but I'm not going to put the lid on it right away. But here's one thing you can do. Make a little thing right there, because that's where your fire is. Make a little spot. We're going to get even more bacon grease out of this, but first we'll eat a little more bacon. Look at that. See? Look how shiny that is. And see all this grease still dripping? We'd have been crazy not to put this back in with the vegetables. Let's also add a little bit more grease or oil to help cook these things down. You get every drop, because you paid for it. The cheapest pack of bacon at Walmart. I mean, nondescript family market. Look at that. That looks great. I probably would just eat this by itself. Vegetables and bacon. So we're going to let it, we're going to use our ears and we're going to listen and kind of see if we need to turn down the fire. Hopefully the vegetables don't and the bacon don't burn or anything, which I don't think they will. But here we go. So now you can see we had a nice beautiful setup in the beginning, and we used just about all of it. We got some onions left over. We wound up using about 2 onions, yellow onions, maybe 2.5, 1.5, 1.5. My producer told me we used 1.5 onions. Budget. A bunch of celery. We filled up a bowl, right? Look at the size of your pot. And as you can see inside the pot, as it starts to cook down, you can see what this translated into this is. So if you look at home and you look at a Tony Chachere's can for scale, that's about how big this pot is. And if you look on this camera, that's about, you see, this is how we're measuring. We're measuring visually. See that? That's, you know what size it is now, right? You can kind of estimate at home, add vegetables to your liking, you know. If you don't like onions, don't put them. I think that's crazy, but I'm not going to judge. You know, some people don't like onions. Some people want to make a seafood jambalaya or whatever. That's fine too. Just kind of use your gut feeling and kind of make your best judgment call on what you think you should do. I wish I could give you some more measurements, honestly. I used 4 pork chops, 2 links of sausage, about half a pack, I guess. Let's see, that's 3.17 pounds. I used probably about 1.6 pounds of chicken thighs. Then I cut some of the fat off. So altogether, I mean, you're just kind of making, you know, an amalgamation of different things, and then you add your seasoning as you like. I'm going to add a lot more seasoning for me and for my family because we like spicy food. If you're watching this and you're not really used to spice, you can go a little bit less on the spice. I'm telling you, Mrs. Dash, not a sponsor, they make a really great seasoning. They got all kinds of different stuff in here. You can even add that to your vegetables right about now. See, and that's the point I'm trying to make. You just kind of can go by taste and by sight, you know. We didn't put any salt in there, so we should probably add some salt to help kind of dry out the vegetables a little bit. But before I do, add some Worcestershire sauce. That tastes good. My point is, I guess I'm kind of showing you how I do things with heat and time. Not the herb, but like literally the time, right? So how I learned to cook is by asking people, how hot was it when they did it? How long did they cook something? The steps, what they put in first, second, third, and then, you know, time. How long do you let it simmer? Because I've had jambalaya before. That's probably a lot of salt. We had to add as much on the end. So see, there you go. But see, that's the thing. Some people I would talk to that made jambalaya, they don't simmer it. They just let it go. And it tastes fine. And some people I talk to, they'll let it simmer for 2 hours. It's really all up to you. And that's kind of how I learned, is I watched a lot of different people. Or, you know, watch them cook and listen to their recipe or how they do it. They kind of told me the steps like I'm telling you mine right now. And you just combine that with the knowledge. So if this is your first time watching Ca C'est Cajun, you need to go back and watch everybody else cook too, because there's going to be some more jambalaya episodes that you can combine with what I'm showing you here. And you could probably make a jambalaya that's even better than this one. You just take experiences from the people that you watch cook, and the more Cajun people you can be around or you can watch and learn from, the better. You can take some of these things here. I'll say if there's anything you take from me making this jambalaya, if you want to make it a little bit different, some people add tomato, start with bacon. You can never go wrong adding bacon. Start baking in the beginning, and it just tastes delicious. And this is cooking down great, and it's looking good. We're just going to let this keep going, and these vegetables got a ways to go. So while we do that, the next thing I think we should probably do is just make some chicken stock. You can use the box kind at the store. Makes the grocery bags too heavy, and I'm not in the mood, so I use these. This is little bouillon cubes. You can get in a box. Chicken. I use chicken because we're doing a chicken sausage and pork. You can get pork if you want. I use chicken. It's kind of ubiquitous. It's easy. You find it anywhere. Chicken stock like this, you can use better than bouillon. Comes in a little jar. Mix that up. You're going to start adding water at this point, so you need to kind of keep an eye on your ratio. So if you're going to measure anything, this is where you start. And I actually do use a measuring cup for this. So, use whatever you want. If you want to pour some chicken stock from the box directly into the pot, you know how big the box is. You figure out your ratio. This is just a little 2-cup measuring thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smash up. Honestly, I got 4 of them right here. I'll probably use all of them. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to just smash all these up, stick them in here, make a really concentrated 2 cups of stock. And when the time comes, I'm going to add it in there. And then I'm just going to add water from that point. That prevents me from having to keep making batches of chicken stock over and over again. All right, so onions, bell pepper, celery is in there. We add a little more seasoning. We put our bacon back in. And you can see it's looking really good. It's cooking down. Now, a lot of times if you're going to be browning vegetables, garlic is actually what you want to put in last because it tends to burn a little easier, right? So it's a little more sensitive than everything else is. And I usually add this in, as the other vegetables start to cook down. Now the good thing is there's a lot of moisture in here and the heat is not super high. I don't think it's going to burn. I really don't. You kind of use your judgment on this. I'm going to just kind of, let some of this garlic sit here, probably on top of these vegetables. So kind of make, a little platform of vegetables right there, as you can see. And then I'm going to take some of my garlic, and I'm just going to throw it in now. That should be fine. So, and like I said, you should use fresh garlic if you get the opportunity, but I did not have that opportunity. I love garlic, so we're going to add a good bit of garlic, because I think it's always good to have a little extra garlic, because it's good for your heart, and it's great. So, and I'm just going to kind of mix that up a little bit, but like I said, we don't want it to burn. We just want this to start cooking down. So, some stuff on your spoon, make sure it goes out. Great Granny did it like this. You could do it like that. You could do it like that, however you want. So now, I'm just going to turn this down to like a medium heat, medium low, roughly. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a like little over low, little over halfway between medium and low. Actually, I'll make it easy for you. It's right in between. It'll just take an extra 10 minutes. And I'm going to go make my stock. Now, everybody's kind of different on whether or not they want to do this or not. Sometimes I add a little bit of beer to mine. I know other people that do this. It tastes great. The alcohol cooks off, so you're not going to taste anything. But you find a beer that tastes good, probably something that's not too fruity because that would kind of clash with the flavors. But you're drinking a beer anyway, and if you accidentally spill some, it's not the end of the world. So I guess somebody accidentally did spill a beer one time when they were cooking, and then they just decided they liked it, so that's what they do. So I'm going to crack this one open. You add some in. Now this is add moisture back into it, so you should probably honestly wait until this cooks down a little bit. And this just kind of gives it an interesting flavor. And this will also kind of help, which is probably not a bad time to say this. We just added that garlic in. We don't want that to burn, so adding a little bit of beer maybe will help it out some. But I'm moving my spoon around right now in here. There's still some crunchiness, especially from that celery. This has got to cook down a lot more. So adding liquid's not the end of the world. That bacon grease is still in there, and as this alcohol and beer evaporates, it's going to be good. And it's just going to leave us a really great flavor in here. So we're good here. And like I was saying, look, I really don't measure. Sorry. And like I was saying earlier, I really don't measure, but it's important to measure your chicken stock. Now, I use these. This is just bouillon cubes, chicken. You can use pork, whatever you want. I use chicken because it's easy to find it. You can get better than bouillon. It comes in a little jar. I use a lot of chicken stock. I'm probably going to use, honestly, all 4 of these cubes. and I'm measuring. All right. We got liquid. We added the beer. That is a liquid. No, I did not measure that. I'm measuring this liquid. I'm measuring the stock liquid. Now, you may also say, well, there's grease in there too. The rice might absorb some of that. That's true. Moisture from the vegetables. That's true. The meat. That's true. The beer. Yes. But I'm not measuring that. And I'm going to show you how I compensate for that at the end because I'm using a 2-to-1 rice ratio. But, which I could not say 4 times fast if I tried. But I'm going to crush all these up. I'm going to put it in here with some water. And I'm going to mix it up. And then I'm going to keep adding water, plain water after that because all of these will have been in there. It's just easier for me to do it like that. If I'm using better than bouillon, I'm just going to take probably 3 or 4 big spoonfuls. When it's time to add the stock, I'm going to throw it in. But we'll cover that when we get there. I'm going to go make this stock, and I'll go over that then. All right, so our vegetables have been simmering down really good. Let's take a look. Look at that. Ooh, that looks good. And look, we still got some bacon grease left in there and some grease from the other meats, which is good. Nothing wrong with that. We added a little bit more beer in, while we were on, we were waiting for this to cook down a little bit. See, what happens is you cook down your vegetables, you may be staring at it and thinking nothing's happening. So you walk away for a second, which is kind of what I did. And you come back and there's a little more gras in the pot, some fond or whatever. And so you quickly, if you get that, and your vegetables stop being as potent as they were in the beginning when they were full of moisture, to get that off, you take your beer, you throw a little bit of beer in there, and it's good. Like I said, all that alcohol cooks off, but it leaves some good flavor behind. One way you can test out if you feel like your vegetables are not done and you want to be sure, look at that little piece of celery right there. Take your spoon, right through it. It's almost like going through a stick of butter. Your vegetables are done, right? And they've reduced in size considerably, which leaves a lot more room for meat. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add our meat in, okay? We're going to take this. We're going to try not to hurt ourselves in the process. Break stuff. All right, we're just going to mix all this together. And you got to look at this. Look at this pan right here. I don't know if you can see this. Look at all this meat, grease. It's gold. It's golden. Sorry for the sound effects for this. This sounds awful, but all of that, get all that in there. Look, if you wanted to eat healthy food, you would not be eating jambalaya. This could take a minute. You paid for it, use it. That's good. So that's in there. That's awesome. Here, move this to the side so we don't get messed up with that. So that's good. So what we're gonna do, we still got a lot of meat at this point in here. We got to make some room for some rice. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of let this turn up our heat a little bit. We're going to go over to about a medium high heat and just get all this mixed together. You got to remember, you may be tempted to taste, but if you did like me, your chicken may not be all the way done. We got a gigantic pile of meat right here. But we're going to add our rice, and our rice is going to find its way through here, and so is our stock. And we're going to add as much rice as we can compared to the stock we add. We're just going to let this cook down a little bit. Not that it'll cook down much more, but we can work on it. And while we do that, I could take this time to tell you about something very important. Okay. So some people may disagree with me, but if you use it, I ain't going to judge you. Tomatoes, I'll judge you. But this, I will not judge you. This is browning seasoning. Kitchen bouquet, Savoise, whatever. What they say, you eat with your eyes first, right? So, to me, I like to have a darker jambalaya. This darkened up a good bit because we added the beer, we got the grease. Everything just cooked down a lot. The meat's dark. But it don't hurt to add a little bit of this because that rice, I mean, you add this color rice, right, to this, it's just going to get a lot lighter. It's still going to taste great because I don't think this really adds much taste at all, but, it won't look like that award-winning jambalaya. And look, if you can make a jambalaya without using this and get it really, really, really dark, you can write Ca C'est Cajun and ask to be a part of this show, and I will gladly be in the audience because I want to know too. But as of right now, based on what I know, in my show, we're going to use a little bit of kitchen bouquet or browning seasoning. And I add this in at this stage. Some people add it in once their stock gets in there and they kind of look at the color of the water and everything. But I like doing this because it makes the meat a little darker. and I kind of like that. This goes directly to the meat, so I'm just going to add a little bit. All right, and I said a little bit, but I don't know, maybe that was a lot of bit. And we're just going to mix this up real good. Kind of does darken the meat a good bit, but I think it makes it look really good, especially when you start serving plates or bowls of this to everybody, and they get a good, dark, delicious, juicy piece of pork. They're like, man, this looks great. And you can just smile knowing you added a little bit of kitchen bouquet. And as long as they weren't in the kitchen and you hide it quickly afterwards, they'll never know. But we're going to leave it out because we ain't got no secrets today. So, it's good. So, and then what we're going to do now, because all of this really does honestly have to cook down a good bit. We cook down our vegetables, which is really important. I cook those down separately because I feel like they dissolve a little bit better than you would if you just adding your stock in. So now this is in there. Our meat and our vegetables are mixed together. It's looking great. One thing we could do is add our stock. Another thing I can mention. I put those cubes in here and it didn't dissolve, which, usually I stir it up or I blend it. But I've also just, depending on how many beers I drink, just throw the cubes directly into there without the stock. And honestly, it all works out the same. So this may look a little goofy, but that's just chicken stock. You can add that. Don't have to dissolve it. Once you stir it, it's all going to break down anyway. So we just got to remember, like I said, we are measuring from this point on. And it's liquid and rice. That's the only two things I really measure. So we're going to do that now. There's not much else this can do as it's together. It's starting to sizzle. We don't want nothing to burn. See that? That's perfect. And you got that chicken in there, and watch this. I bet you it all goes away when I stir this. A little bit of water to make it move a little easier. Now that's 2 cups. Don't let me forget. If you're at home, write it down. Sometimes what I'll do is I get a sticky note, and I'll stick it right here in a Sharpie, and I write 2. That way I know I put 2 cups in, because I take so much time between adding liquid. Every now and then I forget how much I put in. So if you ever like me, you might need to write it down. I'm just going to try to remember 2 cups so far. We added a lot of chicken stock in there. Now hopefully that's pretty good, but we're going to do the ultimate taste test here in a minute as this cooks down some more. So here's the thing. When you're letting stuff cook down, and you may say, well, damn, this jambalaya takes a long time to cook. And honestly, it does. And that's why I don't make this for dinner unless I got all day to cook it, because I feel like it's only going to get better as it sits, for one. 2, it's even better the next day a lot of times because it sits in the fridge overnight. Just based on how it looks, I probably would add some hot sauce. And I have no scientific way to justify that. It's just I just feel it in my Cajun bones. I need some hot sauce on it. Now would be a good time probably. You know what? Can't go wrong with Mrs. Dash. Add a little bit more of that at every step, right? Who knows? It's pretty good stuff. How about some cayenne pepper? Nah, yeah. Just a little bit. And then what we're doing is I'm just showing you that you can add whatever you want. It's still going to taste delicious. Now, you won't be able to taste this at home. You may think I'm crazy, but I think it's going to be really good. This Happy Cajun's great. The ingredients on here, there's no extra ingredients besides what he puts in it, I guess, at his house. And I'm just doing this to show you that no matter what you use, it's going to be delicious. And if you don't think I use enough of Slappy Mama, there you go. It's going to be great. Kind of look around and look at your color. See that browning seasoning definitely made it a little bit darker, but I want it even darker than this. And because I didn't make a roux, I can't make it much darker, so I'm just going to add some more of this. And you may ask yourself, did he add too much? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be delicious because it don't have much of a taste. And if you can taste it, I apologize, but I cannot. I think that's looking pretty good. Now we put 2 cups in here, okay? We got our, and I can't see any of that chicken, that bouillon cube, so it don't matter how you put it in, it's going to go away. So I'm going to go get some more water, and I'm going to add water until I feel like adding half the rice is going to get it close to the top but not overflow it, if that makes any sense. We still stirring this down. We got 2 cups so far. And I went ahead and I got 2 more cups. And something was telling me I needed another chicken bouillon cube. So I threw that in there. But you can't even see it because it goes away that fast. So, like I said, not a chef. I'm barely a cook. But as you can tell, you know, there's always room to learn. And I learned. You can just throw them damn things in there and they'll just go away. So that's perfect. All right. We did 2 cups of water. 2 more cups of water. This could be a kid show. That's 4 cups. I can't let myself forget. That's 4 cups. Look at this. That's awesome. 4 cups of water at this point. We're getting there. This could almost be gumbo without the roux. A little bit thick, looking good. All right, now we're gonna add some more water. 2 more cups. All right, 2 more cups. 6. 6. All right, now we're at 6. All right, so that's 6 cups of water in here. And I think we can go 8 cups. All right, now if we put rice in here, honestly, the water level is not going to change that much. It'll probably come up about, you know, ½ an inch maybe. But then when the rice cooks, Krakatoa, it's coming out of there. So that's 8 cups. 8 cups of, so this is 8 cups of stock at this point. Like I said, I'm adding water, but it really is stock because we put those bouillon cubes in there. So don't forget that. So we're doing that. So this is 8. I'm going to cut that in half. That's about 4 cups of rice. Can that serve a bunch of hungry Cajun people? Yes. Would it make them happy? Yes. Would it make them really happy? No. We need to add more. And we're going to experiment together. We're going to see if it blows the lid off of this. At this point, we might as well. So that's 8 cups. I'm going to add 2 more. That'll be 10 cups. We'll do 5 cups of rice and maybe a little extra and we'll be good. And we're back. All right. I think that's going to be the last 2 I'm doing. I think that's 10 cups altogether. Right, everybody? Okay. So we had 10 cups. So 10 cup, this is what it's looking like in this pot. This pot actually holds quite a bit more than I was expecting. So I'm impressed. This 360 cookware. You know, a lot of Cajuns, they cook with cast iron. And that's great. But if you don't want to deal with the upkeep of cast iron and you need something comparable, get you a good pot like this. This is from 360 Cookware. You can use this in any other pot. But the main thing you got to watch out for is the bottom, right? A good, thick, lined metal bottom of this pot is going to make sure the heat stays and it transfers well. You don't want your stuff to burn. You don't want a flimsy metal pot. I've used those before. It just is not worth it. You want something robust. Also something that even after it cools for a little while, you can throw it in the back of your car and take it to the function. Right? So, you know, it will also be used to transport it. So, good solid pot is what you need to make this work. And it is working. So we had 10 cups right now. I feel like we got plenty of room for rice. As a matter of fact, I think we have so much room for rice. I'm going to add another 2 cups. Actually, that's 10 cups. We'll do 2 more cups. I was going to add 1, but I'm going to add 2. So now we had 12 cups of water with the bouillon that makes it chicken stock, right? So we had 12. Look how close this is to the top. It's pretty close, but we'll be all right because the rice is going to expand and it's going to absorb all that liquid and it may rise and it may push that top up, but this is a quality heavy-duty top. And look how much room you got on the inside of this top. A lot of people don't consider this. You actually got room right here. See, look, you got this amount of space and you got this amount of space. And if it needs more, it'll keep pushing. It ain't going to ruin it if it pops the top a little bit and you can feed everybody and make them happier. Right? 12 cups of stock means you need 6 cups of rice for this recipe. And you can see how bad I am at remembering how much I put in here since I don't measure anything. I'm just not used to it. And what we got floating on the top right here, what's that? Is that bacon? Oh, that's bacon. See? All the bacon doesn't come to the top. If we wanted to skim that and eat that, you could. But when you add the rice, it's going to force it down, and everybody's going to have a nice little chunk of bacon here and there as they eat. That's looking good, though. We got our rice. We got everything. We got, not our rice. We got our meat, our vegetables. As you can tell, the vegetables cooked down a whole lot. Honestly, the color of this liquid's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. But we're going to see. That rice is going to lighten it up a lot. and you don't want to be adding kitchen bouquet after the fact. So what we need to do is bring this to a boil, okay? When it gets to a boil, you're going to turn the fire down to a simmer, and you're going to cover it. And you're not going to touch it for about 45 minutes. And I know it sucks to wait another 45 minutes. But the longer you wait for this thing, you can cook it for 2 hours. The longer the better. Especially when you make a roux. We didn't this time. But if you make a roux, cook it down, because you don't want to taste that flour. And in this, you're not going to taste anything. It'd probably be good to add the rice right about now, but we're going to make it extra special and keep everybody awake for no reason. Honestly, that tastes really good. That tastes really good. I ain't going to lie. But, you know, you can always add more if you wanted to. It's got a nice little kick to it right now at this point. The salt content, it's salty, but it's not too salty. And when you add the rice, it's actually going to take a lot of that away. So, you know, I haven't been measuring salt at this point, so you got to kind of taste as you go. Maybe don't add too much salt if you're worried about salt. Add it towards the end. Only put salt when you put your vegetables. I mix some salt in with my meat too. You may not want to do that. Just add a little bit of salt with your vegetables to help them cook down like we talked about. But otherwise, I think this is just about perfect. I'll taste it again just to make sure. That's looking good, and as you see the foam kind of coming up right here, it's going to get boiling pretty soon. We still at medium-high heat. Man, that's got a kick to it. You know what that its kick is from? It's from the Slappy Mama. That's some hot stuff, but it tastes really good. And that rice, like I said, that rice will absorb it, and it will knock that down a little bit. Usually at this point, I'm second guessing myself. I'm like, man, do I need something else? This actually turned out really good. I'm impressed. So what we're going to do is let it come to a boil. And then, like I said, turn it to a simmer. Cover it. You know, let it sit as long as you are comfortable letting it sit. As it tastes right now, it's pretty good. But if you got more time and you want to just see what happens as you let it simmer and let those flavors come together, because you got to think, once it gets to boiling, and you let it simmer, it's going to be really hot. A lot of that meat is going to be giving off flavor and oil and absorbing it back in and all that good stuff. So, you know, just let it hang out together for a little while. We'll turn that fire up a little bit, and we'll get it boiling quick so everybody can eat. We use 12 cups of stock, so we're going to measure out 6 cups of rice. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to measure exactly 6 cups of rice, and when we come back, we're going to be adding it in there. I'll let you see what it looks like. This has been simmering for a while now. I usually say 30 minutes at minimum. 30 minutes at minimum, but the longer you do it, possibly the better. Oh my gosh, look at that. We just open this up and we see that it's simmering and it's looking good. It's nice and dark. Ouch. The lid is hot. And we're ready for our rice at this point. All right, now, here we go. When we spoke last, we had 12 cups of stock, right? 12 cups of stock. This is where we actually start measuring. Apologize, I haven't before this, but here's where we start measuring. 12 cups of stock, 6 cups of rice. So we don't have much room. So we're going to see how this works out. This is long grain rice, Mahatma, Zatarain's, whatever you want to get, it's fine. Some people rinse their rice. I had never rinsed my rice before when I did this, so I just don't rinse it. I just put it in. Now, we're looking at this as it goes in. Hopefully y'all can see it. My hand's not in the way, but that rice is in there now. So what I do, I pour the rice in, and then I just start stirring a little bit. This is going it's a lot of food. We're going to see how good these 360 pots are. I'll tell you what. So here, you want the true test from a Cajun. This is going to be it. So now look, I stir it around a little bit. Here's what I do. I just kind of take my spoon and I dredge it along the bottom. I'm scraping the bottom and I lift it up. And I look how much rice comes up and I'm like, and look, this ain't accurate. It ain't super scientific. I'm just trying to find out if I need to add any extra rice just to make a difference. Now, usually, like I said, I usually do 2 to 1. and I just stir around, and I just kind of pick up my spoon, and I kind of go, man, how much liquid's in here? How much is this rice going to expand? And I'm just kind of guessing. Here's the thing. Always cook too much, so always have a lot left over, which is great. So it's okay if some of that rice at the bottom sticks, because you're not going to be digging all the way to the bottom. So sometimes when I make jambalaya, at the very bottom of my pot, I have like one layer or two little granule layer, kind of like stuck rice. It's not burnt, but it's a little crispy, and actually I like that. Not everybody does, but I actually eat it. I like it. So I always put a little extra maybe rice on the side. So this was 12 cups of stock, 6 cups of rice. Turning our fire on medium. We're going to get this boiling. When it comes to a boil, we're going to cut it on completely low and turn it off. But as always, I'm looking in here and I'm thinking 6 cups is good. This is about a half a cup. And this is just lagniappe. But I'm looking at that and I think maybe that's enough. And I guess, and I think about it, I think maybe a little bit more. So that was a half a cup, right? And maybe what I'll do here is I'll put a little more maybe rice in there. And I'll say a little bit more. And look, this may not be perfect, but the rice that's in there, it will get absorbed. It will get absorbed by the liquid. And if there's any rice that don't cook, it'll be at the bottom, I'm guessing. And I'm going to stir it a little bit. And see that fire's on? You can turn that fire up, that rice is going to start to stick. So you need to pass your spoon all around it. Make sure all that rice is lifted free. And to me, this feels like enough rice. It feels like enough rice. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to have this rice in here. That's about right. Okay. This is going to be fun. This is going to expand a little bit. So it'll be right at the top. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring this to a boil. Then we're going to turn it, as soon as it boils, let it simmer. And this is the most important thing. When you turn it to a simmer, you're going to cover it. Don't peek. Don't do anything. Don't touch it. Don't look at it for at least 30 minutes. At least. You're going to be tempted. You're going to want to see, well, what if? No, just don't touch it. Because what's going to happen is it's going to cook, and it's going to be cooked as much as it possibly can be. And when you open it, it's just going to mess it up. Just don't open it. Leave it alone. I'm going to turn this to actually medium because it was a little bit higher. I just want this to start simmering. And I don't want too much liquid to evaporate. This is going to be a lot of jambalaya. It's kind of funny. It almost looks like gumbo from the top. But while this is getting to a simmer, which is actually kind of close, let's go ahead and cut up our green onions. Don't have to be perfect. We're just going to get that cut up. This is kind of a garnish. Might even save a little bit for on top too. But we're just going to throw these in there. That's a good amount. We'll just throw that in for now. We'll save that for a garnish later. Mix this in with a little bit of our parsley and celery. Like that. Perfect. A little bit more of that. Not going to use all of it. Maybe we should. I don't know. That seems like it's enough though. And just real quick, mix it in on the top. Mix it in on the bottom. Look at that rice. God, that rice is already starting to swell up. That's looking good. Now, it was at a simmer. We on low. One thing I forgot. Almost forgot. You can't forget. Little bit of liquid smoke. At the very, very end. Just a drop. And I could just sit on the top. You ain't got to stir it. It's all good. Boom. Let that sit. 30 minutes. Don't take off the cover. Don't peek. Don't do nothing. 30 minutes. It starts now. When I take this lid off, it's going to be time. It's been 30 minutes. And we didn't touch the lid. We didn't peek or nothing. You can see on this camera up here, we got a little bit of moisture. And watch this. It's floating. So it's probably pretty full. But we're going to go ahead and open it up. Like I said, it's been 30 minutes. We didn't peek. We didn't do nothing. Let's look at it. Now, oh, look at that. Man, that rice did levitate. It did push up, but it didn't go that high. Got a lot of room in this pot. We made it work. All right, that's looking good. We were on simmer for 30 minutes. It's got a nice color to it. We're going to stir from the bottom. Oh, man. It's a pretty good ratio. Now, typically at the top, all your liquid's going to come to the top, and that's where it's going to sit. Now look at that. See? Look at this chicken, or this is some pork right here. It's tender. It's cutting through pretty easy. It's all falling apart. That's what at least that's what I want when I look at it. And if you look right here, it's kind of dry, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to stir from the bottom. Make sure we don't smash up our rice too much. Give that a stir. Make that circle around a little bit. Don't spill it. If you do like I do, always cook too much, your pot's always going to be overflowing. We don't want that. Maybe we do. I don't know. Oh, look at that. That looks good. A lot of the meat's going to settle and the rice is going to come to the top, so we just want to make sure we see all that. All right, that's looking good. So look, see that chicken right here? That's what I was telling you. Some of that chicken just breaks apart. That's my favorite. With every little bite, you can get a little strand of chicken. I'm trying to find it. I think it's at the bottom. The chicken does sink. There's some. It's in there, everybody. I know it. How does that look, though? Doesn't that look good?